All right, let's see where we are at. $265. Not too long ago, I was $284. And you can go back and look at one of my videos. It was not that long ago, maybe a couple months, maybe a little tad bit longer than a couple months ago. All right, let's talk about the difference between a bulk and a cut. Like, what all am I doing different right now? Because not too long ago, I was 284, and now I'm 264. I already forget what it said. Almost 20 pounds. That's crazy. In what, 2 months-ish? Like, has my workout in the gym changed? No. Have I added more cardio? Hell no. So what's the difference? Dude, it's only food. The only difference between when I'm cutting and when I'm bulking is my food. When I was bulking, I was eating around 7,000 calories. That was my goal. I didn't hit it every day. I was probably averaging around 6,800. And if you do the math on that, that was damn near 300, maybe a little bit more grams of protein. I think I was averaging about 700 to 900 grams of carbs, and then the rest was fat. And it was good fat. I wasn't eating like shit. I wasn't eating fast food or junk food or anything. It was, fish, not always white fish, a lot of salmon. I was not eating chicken breasts. I was eating chicken thighs mostly. That's where a lot of the fat came from, or ground beef or steak. So what'd I change? First of all, I cut my calories. That's the number one thing, the easiest thing to do. Even if you mess your macros up, if you eat in a caloric deficit, you're gonna lose weight. So that's number one. Number two, I wanted to bump up my protein a little bit, because if I were to just eat less calories with the same percentage of macros, my protein would have gone, below 200-ish. So I'm eating about the same amount of protein, somewhere between 300 and 400 grams a day. And then my carbs went from damn near 1,000 to now I'm like 300 to 400. A high day is like 500. And the rest is, good, clean fat, whatever that means, from animals and plants, nuts, stuff like that. All right. And then the other thing is, how did I get here to begin with? I've always been super skinny, super tiny. But what I finally learned how to eat, finally learned how to lift, and I learned that you bulk up basically until your peak acceptable fatness. Like, you want to bulk, you want to add muscle, but you're also going to add fat. Unless you're blasting gear, like a shit ton of gear, you're not going to stay lean as you want and still add a bunch of muscle. So the idea is to bulk, add muscle, and then bulk up to your peak acceptable fatness, whatever that is. Fortunately for me, it takes a lot for me to get fat. And then you cut down. But this cut is heavier than where you started. And then you just do it all over again. So you bulk again, but this bulk was higher than the last bulk. And then you cut again. So eventually, at one point, your cut is still gonna be bigger than one of your previous bulks. And it's just like a roller coaster of bulk cut, bulk cut, bulk cut, bulk cut. But it's the linear average is always going up. And it really is as simple as that. You wanna bulk up, you wanna add size, you eat more. You wanna cut down, you eat less. It's not complicated. I see all this stuff. You can go down all these rabbit holes of, science and every individual whatever, and all this frankly bullshit that makes it super confusing and difficult, and it seems like this huge barrier to enter becoming fit or reaching your goals, but it's really not that complicated. Number one, track your food. Know what works for you with macros. Everyone's a little different. Typically, start off with like 40 to 50% carbs, 40 to 50% protein, and the rest fat, but good fat. And go from there. Like me, I can eat a shit ton of carbs because my metabolism is pretty quick. And if I want to add weight, I need to give my body a ton of energy. But if you're not a hard gainer like me and you put on size and weight pretty easily, you probably want to manage and be careful about eating too much carbs and especially too much fat, and up the protein. Especially if you're bulking up, you want to be careful not to get too fat if you're not a hard gainer like me, because losing it will be more difficult. But like me, I have the opposite problem. I have issues putting on weight. Like you just saw, I lost 20 pounds in the past 2 months without even really trying. So I kind of have the opposite problem. I can overeat and I can kind of go past my peak acceptable fatness before I can start a cut. So honestly, it's not that complicated. It's not necessarily easy, but it's not complicated. And that's one of the big issues I have with all these nutritionists and, whatever. They put out all this scientific jargon with all these words that I don't even understand and they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. They're very smart. But for the average person, even for me, which I'm nothing special, you want to bulk, you eat more food than you need, and you control your macros. You want to lose weight, you eat less food than you need, and you control your macros. That's it. So this is still, week, oh shit. This is already week 3. God, this goes by fast. All right, this is only week 3. I did 275 as my working weight last week. I'm really tempted to jump up, but I'm going to hold myself back. I got a long way to go. I'm only going up to 285. All right. See how this goes. And one of the things that I've learned is, even if this isn't my max weight, one of the things I learned from Olympic lifting is, no matter what the weight is, treat it as if it's your max weight. Not only like mentally, but as far as how you approach the bar and how you lift the weight. So it's essentially practicing at a lighter weight for your heavier movements. So your lighter weights and your heavier weights look exactly the same thing. So that when you're going really heavy, you're not doing something new or something different all of a sudden. And then going back on cutting and not adding more cardio. First of all, I don't suggest anyone not do cardio. I do not do enough cardio. You should do it. But don't do cardio to lose weight. Why do I say that? Because you can run a mile, and how many calories does that burn? A couple hundred? Let's say at the very most, 400 to 500 if you're absolutely getting it, or you're just massive and you're burning a bunch of energy because you're so heavy. That's like a half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a half a glass of milk. I would rather just not eat that than have to do an extra 30 to 40 minutes of cardio. It's not that difficult to cut even 500 calories out of your day. Just don't eat that piece of bread, or don't drink that soda, or don't eat the cookie, or don't, like in the middle of the night, don't be like a little scoundrel in the middle of the night going and stuffing your face in the pantry with nuts or chips or whatever it is you have handy there that you could just stuff your face with, that I've been guilty of. Like stuff like that doesn't make it onto the food tracker because, oh, it's just a little nibble here and there. A little handful of nuts, it's like 50 grams, is like 700 or 800 calories. Okay, maybe not that much, but almost. You get what I mean. Just don't eat that one thing throughout the day, and you don't have to do any extra cardio. Extra cardio. I'm not saying don't do cardio, I'm saying extra cardio. I've also fallen in love with smelling salts. Try not to overuse them because then they kind of lose their magic, but especially first couple movements when I'm going relatively heavy, early in the morning when I'm not awake yet, they're great. 4 set, doing total of 5. I don't know what it is about the 4 set out of 5, but it's always rough because you're tired from the first 3. But after this, you still have 1 more. This is always mentally the most difficult one for me. Shit. All right, so there's a lesson learned there. I did not time my rest, and I definitely did not take long enough. That's probably only 90 seconds, and typically I take double that. I'm here to push weight and, do more, better reps. I'm not here to do cardio, or this isn't CrossFit, god damn it. So I'm a big fan of taking as much rest as you need. Now moving on to incline. I like doing low incline because I have a very specific shoulder day, and I feel like even this is just a touch too high, but this is the lowest as it'll go. Because if I'm here, I can even scoot my butt back or up a little bit, so that way I'm a little flatter, and that way still using a little bit of shoulder, but it's mostly chest, kind of getting that upper chest and the whole pec really, whereas flat bench, and flat, you know, dumbbell press. Not a lot of upper chest in there. And it's that upper chest, first of all, that a lot of people complain that they don't have, but then they don't go and do anything incline. So this is me doing that. Did 110 last week for 20 reps, which is too many reps. I don't want to do that many reps. This gym has no 115s, so we're going up to 120s. So I don't have to mess around and work my way up to heavy dumbbells. I'm just going to jump straight into it. These already feel heavy. No, they don't. Lightweight, motherfucker. Lightweight. Oh. All right, it's crazy how much of a difference 10 pounds can make. I went from last week doing 20 on my first set to doing 12 with this one. And I mean, that's kind of the deal. You add more weight. I added more weight on the bench, so I'm more tired here. So obviously I'm going to be able to do less here, and I added more weight, so makes sense. It's okay. The goal isn't necessarily more reps or more weight or more sets. It's more not even perceived effort, just more effort, more closer to failure with heavier weight. You know, you get what I'm saying. So just because you're doing less reps but you're adding more weight, it doesn't mean you're doing less. The key is don't be a bitch. I feel like I say that a lot. It's pretty simple. You want to gain weight, eat more. You want to lose weight, eat less. You want to get better, don't be a bitch. Third set, I think I'm gonna do 4 of every other exercise today. Started off with 5 on bench, just because why not? And then for all the other stuff I do, I'll do 4 sets. Whew, I don't know what it is about the second to last set. Such a mind fuck. I won't count that last one, but I'll count the second to last one. Moving up again in weight. And last week did 110. 120 is kind of a big jump, but I did 20 on my first set last week. That's just too many. So we'll see what happens here. Probably haven't taken enough of a rest, but we're just gonna jump straight into it. Yeah, that's more like it. Other thing I love about this gym, especially around this time, that's a little bit after the super early crowd, but before the later morning crowd, it's totally empty, and I can play my shitty ass dubstep music as loud as I want. Whew, that's getting heavy. Last set here. Fuck. Last movement before abs or core or whatever. Dips. Fucking hate these things. But I guess that's why I'm doing them. Man, what I'm really trying to do here, I'm trying to lean as far forward as possible, because if I'm upright, it's a lot of tries, but if I'm leaning forward, my elbows aren't bending that much, about 90 degrees, and it's mostly chest. And definitely emphasizing the lower half, because that's mostly chest anyway, because at the bottom here, my elbow isn't moving that much, but my upper arm is being pushed down and using my chest to do that. All right, at this point, fourth moving in, after going heavier on everything, almost more reps on everything. When it comes to this, your last movement, especially something like dips, it's already difficult. If you're just matching what you did, dude, I count that as a win. Even less, I still count it as a win, because everything else in the lift, you did heavier, more reps. So now I'm smoked. Dips are already hard. I suck at them. That's why I'm doing them. But even doing the same amount of steps, same amount of reps, I still count that as progressive overload, because now I'm more tired than I was last week. And of course I say that and I still do one more rep. All right, last set. I just got to do 9 to match what I did last week. But I remember this sucked. Last set, dips, already difficult. I'm smoked. 9 is a lot. But again, try not to be a bitch today. Oh. Ten in a little bit, I'll take it. Oh. I'm really trying to convince myself to skip doing abs, but I promised myself for this new cycle I wouldn't. But if you're the type of person that is really good with negotiating with yourself and talking yourself out of shit, like cardio or abs, think about doing them, you know, before. Maybe not cardio, unless you have a long break between cardio and when you're lifting, because you don't want to be tired when you start lifting. But abs, especially if you're just doing like chest or back or shoulders and arms, where you're not really using your core for all the lifts on like kind of a leg day, kinda. Do it first, get it out of the way, or do it as your rest. That way now, like me, when I'm done and I'm tired and I'm hungry and I want to go home, I don't try to talk myself out of doing this. Okay, progressive overload, right? I'm only doing 1 set. It was what? 230 for 18 reps. That's a good place to start. I'm going home.